When I think back on all the fears when I was pregnant, all of them dismissed except for one. The only test the state mandated was genetic. Looking for that extra chromosome.
Hello, and welcome to the If We Knew Then podcast. I'm Steven Socks,
And I'm Lori Socks.
and today we're joined by our good friend, Melissa Kynoch. Much of the world was introduced to Melissa through a TV show she did in the UK.
Which followed the birth of 4 different parents. And the one thing that we were drawn to was Melissa's optimism and attitude towards the diagnosis of Down syndrome that she received for her son Bertie. And this was such a evidence of change and evolution of this journey because it wasn't what we had experienced when we received our diagnosis with Liam from the doctors. And we've had so many conversations knowing that the diagnosis isn't always given to us with hope or possibility. And that definitely takes its toll and plants seeds at the foundation of our journey and our child's journey.
So meeting Melissa and hearing her story really opened our eyes to the possibility and the change for our community that is out there.
I love our conversations because we talk about the real stuff. We talk about the stresses. We talk about the real journey, the exterior pressures or misperceptions. And I love that our conversations are always real and always a great experience. At the end of them, I'm more hopeful than I was going into them.
We briefly talk about a couple of organizations, Wouldn't Change a Thing, and Ups and Downs, and also the preschool that Bertie's going to, Bookworms. And you can find links to those organizations in the show notes. So let's welcome Melissa Kynoch.
Good morning, Melissa. It's so good to see your face.
Well, you both look amazing for 8 a.m., I have to say.
I love these new filters that they have between you and I. What is this room that you're in?
This is great.
Is amazing.
This is just my dining room. So that's like my wall of inspirational sayings. And then we've got the kitchen in there.
I love this. Yeah, those posters are fantastic.
Thank you. I bought those when I lived in South Africa and I brought them back with me.
Oh, I love that. How are you?
Yeah, it's been over a year. I was thinking it was around Christmas time because I remember your beautiful Christmas tree.
Yeah, I was just saying to Richard, I'm sure it was Christmas the last time. Because I know the lighting in my living room is not great. And by the end of it, I was just literally sat in dark.
In the dark.
Just a little voice coming from.
I'm good. How are you guys?
Really great. I think, for us, we've talked a lot on the podcast about Liam adjusting to a new school, and it's been such a weight off of us. It's something that is the reason we started the podcast, really was about education, and to just find some light in that has really transformed us.
And he's a teenager now, right? So
crazy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That is so good because I think now with Bertie, I'm on the precipice of that now.
Yes.
His pre-education has started, preschool has started. So I'm very much in the loop of that. So like now when anybody wants to talk about education and a child with Down syndrome, I'm definitely all ears now because that's where we're at, which is really exciting.
But I feel like you've always had an inclusive environment around you. I feel like part of it was your mindset. You've always had a very clear mindset on the equality and value of your child, which I think gets skipped in our community because as soon as we get a diagnosis, all the exterior opinions and inaccurate thoughts come our way and start to fill us with negativity and heavy thoughts and ideas that aren't real. Right, like which most fears really aren't based in reality. Mm-hmm. And that's been one thing that I've always enjoyed watching because of that attitude, it's carved and changed the path that you're on.
Yeah, I think a lot of that attitude, as we spoke lots of times now, haven't we? And I think if you'd have met me before I was part of this 12-step fellowship, as you know, you guys know I'm part of a 12-step fellowship for my substance misuse issues years and years ago. That's what's really surrounded me with people who it's all about inclusivity, unity, being open-minded. And so those are the messages that I get on a daily basis, because that's who I surround myself with. So that leap with Bertie, there was no leap. We were just there anyway. So I've been very much programmed to be like that. I guess that was to a certain extent there in me anyway, because it just fits like a glove. But I, as you guys know, had other issues that kind of got in the way of who I was meant to be. Yeah. So that inclusivity it's just broad strokes in my life, really, with who's in it. So I'm just very lucky, because that's who Bertie's surrounded with too.
You know, we should probably readdress how we were even connected to you. You know, it was, we saw, or I saw something on the BBC. It was a program that featured you for one of their episodes, or part of their episode, following people in a hospital during pregnancies and deliveries. Could you just shine a light on that again, just real quick, so we can kind of recap?
There's a BBC One series called Life and Birth, set in 4 different hospitals in Birmingham in the UK, and they featured a number of families, their journey up until giving birth, and we were one of the families that was chosen to be featured. We're in episode 4. I don't know the viewing figures for that episode, but there was a montage that they did for their Facebook page. The last time I looked, it was over 15 million views. So I think it kind of went viral quite quickly. So it was, at the time, just me and Bertie, who has Down syndrome, and my eldest son, Day. My mum was featured a bit as well. And I think the reason they found our story so appealing and why it sort of resonated with people was because I was just so excited about having Bertie, and I just didn't see him having Down syndrome as an issue. I was just really, really excited to be having a baby, and I thought that was quite normal and that everybody else was like that. But as it turns out, I think it was so well liked because people found that quite refreshing and not necessarily the norm. And that's how we connected. Yeah.
When you talk about it not being the norm, I don't know if this community is allowed that feeling. Do you know? Because of, like I said, you get bombarded from diagnosis. You get bombarded before the diagnosis. I mean, with our daughter, we were bombarded with, you better do something while you have the time, and just language that robs us of that experience. And watching you, it was something that Stephen and I really dug in to try to make our experience. But, you know, like in the hospital, we had the geneticist after he was born say, you could have done something, which is like, I don't even know why you would say a sentence like that. I mean, it's just horrific. And seeing you have that experience, it was that possibility. We may feel a certain way, like we do about both of our children, but when the exterior messages coming at us are so pointed, sometimes we doubt our right to those feelings and beliefs about our children. And so I was just so happy that this message and this story was out there so people could start to see that, yeah, people can tell you whatever they want about you, but you get to determine how you react. You get to determine how you feel. And I really don't think that this community remembers that or feels that right.
You know, what's been so nice about our journey with that is I've had messages from mums who have had a diagnosis a long time after we were featured. I mean, this is a couple of years ago now, and they remembered watching us on BBC, and then they've got pregnant, had their babies, got the diagnosis, and that's just been sort of there in their mind that there's another way that they could feel about this, there's another perspective to have. And I mean, there was a rare unpleasant comment on the Facebook thread for the BBC, but which really made me laugh. Doesn't bother me. But those unpleasant ones, when you get comments, when I receive messages like that, it's all worthwhile then, isn't it? You know, because there is a different perspective to be had, because everything else is just really outdated. And I think the really strong message that I like to give, I'm not articulate, so I apologize. I'm not going to be articulate enough to like express this, but I think there is a tendency in the Down syndrome community to say, you know, it's not like it was. Our children can do more. It's possible that they can have relationships and work. And what I say is, you know, it doesn't, like, it's your child. Like, if Bertie never works, if he never talks, you know, if he never walks, it's my child, and I'm going to love him passionately, like, regardless. And I like to give like that message instead. He's my child. I'm going to love him the same way that I love Day. If he never left the house, you know. So that's the message that I like to give, and the feedback that I've had from other parents has just been really, really, really rewarding.
We're still at the phase of advocacy and changing the message, that we're at that part where we're having to justify and we're having to change the message. So what my goal is for inclusion is that you don't have to. I don't even have to tell you what I think my son will do or what my son will do, because nobody knows. But because that message has been so just pound in everywhere we go, and especially in the outside of our community, that's the message. Beginnings are always so awkward and, you know, not necessarily pretty, like when a little calf is born and they're like, oh, on their legs. And I feel like that's the part where we're feeling like we have a voice and we can change the message. And I do believe that, which you've obviously already have, is that perspective of inclusion means I don't have to justify my existence. I don't have to justify my child's existence. I don't know what either of them are going to do.
Yeah, Bertie's worth is not dependent on what he can do, how much he can do. That's just not where his worth comes from. His worth is he's a human being, full stop.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's life too. I think that message, as far as everyone being alive and humanity, I think that message needs to be in every community. Some of the way we value life, it definitely needs to be reworked.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the negative part that I see is from an older part of the community, or that kind of flows over to new parents sometimes, is this thought of just right away thinking the limits of my child. So I think a lot of times people say, let me show you what someone with Down syndrome can do, because you want your child, like any child, to be able to do whatever they want, to be happy, to live their life to the fullest. And if you do tell any child that you can't do this, can't do that, you won't ever be able to do this, they won't, and it limits them and could limit their happiness.
Absolutely. And I think my message definitely has to be balanced with that. If we can believe that Bertie is capable of doing something, then all of the early interventions, the support that we help, then I want all of that for him. If he is capable of being in the workplace to bring him some sort of financial independency, to feel like he's like his peers, that he's working, then I want to give him that. And that's, yeah, definitely I have to challenge those ideas that people just doesn't even cross their mind that somebody like Bertie could do those things. I would then hope that the next level of that is that they still see him as having worth, even if he's not capable of a career.
One, I want to go back to the fact that what you said, it is articulate, and it's part of who you are that I so love, because I think that is, I don't want there to be a mistake. I think that is at the goal. You're at my end goal. Like, my end goal is to not have to talk about it. Like, I don't want to have to talk about what Liam will do, because I don't know what Liam will do. And even having an optimistic point of view of what I believe Liam can do or will do, I may still be putting limits on him, because what I might view as, oh, well, he can do this, he will do this in defense of being told he won't. Maybe he's going to do more than that. Maybe he's going to do other than that. Maybe he's going to find a new way. I don't know. It is the unknown. And I've really started working on, instead of seeing the unknown as, oh, I don't know, like, the unknown can sometimes hold like a fear or bring a pessimism or a worry or a doubt. And I've been really working on having the unknown be full of possibility. Like, I don't know.
It's a blank page, and I'm totally with you on that. Of that reprogramming, the unknown doesn't necessarily mean anxiety. The unknown could just mean possibility and a journey that's going to be new and fresh. But that's like, I'm not necessarily built that way to be so optimistic all the time. I think the unknown it can be a really scary place, very scary. My friends keep me grounded, I think, whenever I talk about parenting Bertie, because a lot of the time they'll say to me, which is really good, might not want to hear it in the moment, but they'll say, but that's like parenting anybody, Mel. She's like, that's really, really good for me, because all of those fears that have of the unknown for Bertie about what his possibilities might or might not look like, that's the same for Day as well. It just carries kind of a different weight because Day's more likely to be able to do them. But I still have those fears. And when I talk to my friends who've got kids without Down syndrome, they have the same fears. And like I say, might not be what I want to hear at the moment, because at that moment, I guess there's part of me that wants to be validated that I have a struggle sometimes. It's harder for you, Mel, because I can wear my martyr cape, But I think it's also really grounding for me that just parenting is it's just tough regardless.
I'm always struggling to let people see that raising Liam is the same as raising Sophia. I have the same worries and doubts and challenges that I had with Sophia. But the viewing of me from the outside is definitely, I've gotten more looks of like, oh, mom, oh, poor mom, or, so it's so funny what we have to fight. And like I said, it'll be great when we can just don't have to fight and just be like, this is what I have. And you know what? On any particular day, no matter what, as a parent, that's going to feel more challenging. I feel like for us, a lot of it comes from the exterior. That's really what I get. I think it's lovely. I would love to have people here going, but it's the same, because we don't have that.
Well, it's funny. There's things that I don't worry as much about when it comes to Liam as I do about Sophia. I've talked about it before, that I know when Liam looks himself in the mirror that he loves himself and he is confident that he has friends, and he doesn't have anxiety about approaching people and saying, hey, how you doing? I'm Liam. And, that's not always the case for kids and for adults to like themselves when they look in the mirror, or to have a confidence about themselves.
It doesn't cross my mind when I'm thinking about Bertie and his future. I never think about self-esteem issues with him, but I do with Day. I think Bertie's going to just have that level of confidence naturally. That's just going to see him through life, and I don't think that Day is going to have it to that degree. I think it's going to be something like me. I'll have to teach him the tools for those things. I'm going to have to work on them. Whereas Bertie, I just think he's nails that already, and he's only 3.5.
It's so amazing. I love it. But I feel like Liam as a teenager is starting to become aware of, all those behaviors that people would be like, oh, that's so cute. And now that he's a teenager, we're having to have conversations of, shifting that to where, just being a teenager is awkward. And it's okay, well, let's ask now before we give hugs, to still support him in making that transition as a teenager. I do see that he did, we did this short, and he was so confident and so proud of his work, and could go out and say, hey, come with me. I want to show you this film I made. And to have Sophia have that confidence especially in middle school would have, I mean, that's such a gift.
Yeah, we were just at the grocery store that's kind of right down the street from the school, and sometimes I park in that parking lot so Liam and I can walk over to the grocery store and just kind of look around, have a 20, 30 minutes together of just going around a store. And very often he has classmates in that store as well. And I just love watching him say, hey, that's someone from my school. And they look and go, hey, Liam. And they go, what are you going to look at? Well, I'm looking at some potato chips. Oh, I'll go with you. And they look around and they're walking with like their arms around each other and just being, loving teenagers who just like hanging out. Like that's like the coolest thing.
And that does come from that he's now in an inclusive environment.
Oh, yeah. All those kids
It's
are
an
just
amazing
like,
environment that I just hope. But Melissa, what I wanted to, and I keep like almost finishing my sentence, like I keep forgetting where I was going, but I do want to say that when you're talking about having 2 children and one has that extra chromosome, it's just being a parent, like loving something so much and trying to help them to become a good human and be happy in their life and create the life they want. It's that we do have another like little coating over our children with Down syndrome, that there is just an unseen it's an unseen challenge that comes from the way Down syndrome has been viewed and treated in the past. And I think that's where that weight comes from, because like for me, it is a fear of when he goes into the world, is he going to go into an inclusive environment? Because the scholastic environment he just came from was a nightmare, and his speech was not good. His education was not enforced. They were preparing him to propagate a stereotype. And when he switched, he was educated. He was given his services. He was, friendships were allowed to emerge, and not friendships that come from go talk to the kid with Down syndrome.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I think we could say that here. That's really kind of.
Gosh, that seems so archaic to me.
Yeah.
So archaic. I can't imagine that's going to be our experience. Like, I will be so shocked if that's Bertie's experience, just from what we've already been immersed in. Bertie goes to nursery, preschool. The nursery as a whole, I can't speak highly enough about them, but he has a one-to-one. He goes for 15 hours and he has a one-to-one for the whole time he's there. Matthew has become like the third parent. He's so incredible. He didn't know any Makaton signing. This Bertie communicates with signing and grunts. And Matthew has learned to sign. Bertie's the only kid with Down syndrome there. So he's with like your typically developing children. We went to see their Easter parade, and the kids sang some songs and they signed them all. So Bertie could be included. What he receives at this nursery is amazing. It's incredible, and I get very excited every day that he go. I can remember saying to my friends, he's not going to settle in, probably be going every day and staying with him for like 6 months because he's not settling. Bertie cries when I go to pick him up to bring him home. He doesn't want to come home. And it's a fantastic environment with him, and his signing has really taken off. I can just see so much positive things about his development. The next school that he goes to will be the nursery that is attached to Day's school, so mainstream nursery. And they are so excited that Bertie's coming. He could have started in January, but Richard and I decided to just push it back till September because he's getting on so well at Bookworms and so well with Matthew's help. We just wanted to give that a bit longer, and they were devastated at the school that they were going to have to wait until September. They all know him. They're all very excited for him to start. The staff there are already wanting to learn Makaton to be able to communicate with him. Like, I have not got one worry about Bertie and education, not at all. I'll be so surprised. I'll be gobsmacked if our journey through school I mean, I understand it might change when Bertie's 11 and he needs to go to high school, senior school. Mainstream school might not be the best place for him. A more specialised school might be the place for him. At the moment, I've got absolutely no idea. I just don't have to think that far ahead. But from now until he's 11, I feel really, really secure with with the education that he's going to receive. I mean, look, I might be the exception to the rule. That would be really sad if I am. But I just think it makes me just feel so grateful that I just don't have that worry. I'm not having to sit here and say, like what you've just said. That makes me really angry.
I think also that since he'll have this experience until 11, that's going to change his path. Like, you don't have to even think about it when you get there. I think you'll see, I can't wait to see what it is.
Yeah.
Because that is proof in the pudding that what if the journey was completely different? How does that influence the life? The chromosome has not changed at all. But what if we actually treated the life of a child with an extra chromosome with equality and upheld their education and did all of that? I want to make sure that we have the name of that school to give them a Bookworm. Is that it?
He's at Bookworms now, and he will go to Old Hill Primary. I mean, I feel really blessed because they're both great places, but the school, Day already goes there, and I feel like Day is just thriving being at that school anyway. I don't know whether you guys have a PTA, Parent Teacher Association, so I've joined the PTA because I want to be involved in the way that both of the boys are going to be educated. I just think that's really, really important. So, and I'm all for doing bits of service where I can. I think that's really good for me to give of myself. So I plan on being really involved with both the boys at school. But I've chosen to do that not because I don't trust the school environment. I'm just excited. I'm excited about what the lives that they're going to have there. Yeah, very, very excited.
Well, joining the PTA can be great because then it gives you just a chance to kind of hear what's going on in the school ahead of time. And if there's something that you want to just remind everyone about, if it's about more inclusion or maybe including sign language in a song, like you said, then you have input.
Yeah, absolutely. I've already booked 21st of March next year
Nice.
for the school to celebrate it, so even if it's just all the kids going into school with their odd socks on, I feel like that will be a real triumph, and that's already in the school diary for next year. So I just think I've put myself in a really good position for Bertie to be heard if there are any areas that he's not being. So I'm really excited about that.
What's the age difference with the boys? So how long will they be in school together?
Day is 7, so they'll be at school for about 3 years together, something like that. And Day's he's really excited about that as well. He was quite upset when I said I was going to leave Bertie at Bookworms until September. He wants Bertie at school. They fight. They fight all the time. But when we drop Day off at school, every day there's this big ritual that Bertie wants to go through. Day has to give him kisses and hugs, and there's this very long, prolonged goodbye, and Day's walking off into the classroom. There's this waving and blowing kisses that goes on for 15 minutes. And I can see everyone's going, oh, my brothers, they really love each other. And I think, until we get in the car at home time. And then they're like...
But that's brothers. That's how it is.
Exactly.
Poor Sophie and Liam. I'm always like, stop fighting. No,
oh, yeah, they're always,
I'm not a parent. I'm a referee.
Right. A hug becomes, a tackle
right?
and then a wrestle.
I do. It does feel like a referee. You're waiting for the time that the hug. Can I have a hug?
Yeah.
Sure, we'll have a hug, and then and you're waiting for the time. All of a sudden, the squeeze is a little harder, or
right.
It's like
when are we pulling out the yellow card and then
That's
red
right.
card?
That's our household, most definitely.
I wanted to ask you: did you have to do anything special? Go through it? How did you find this place and get on this path, or was this just
the Bookworms place?
Yes,
yeah.
and the ease of what your path has been.
I don't think that this is just exclusive to me. I would say this is the whole of the UK. Legally, they have to accept children with disabilities into mainstream school. So there was no question. I think there must be a threshold where they just say it would just be much better for this child not to be educated here, which is like fair enough, right? Because I would want Bertie to go wherever it's best for him. But at that age, there was nothing to say that mainstream nursery wouldn't be great for him. So I chose the nursery that was closest to me for convenience, for day. And then because we still live in the same place, when Bertie came, there was just no question that Bertie would go to that nursery and that school, particularly with the nursery, because Day had gone there and I'd gone through my pregnancy journey with Day going to that nursery. They were very much involved with my diagnosis, learning about Bertie, then my birth and Bertie's heart surgery. I mean, they were so accommodating with having Day outside of the hours so I could get to and from the hospital. They did fundraisers for us. And one of the teachers there, she said to me, Day is yours, but Bertie belongs to all of us. What more could you want as a parent? It's obviously who they are as people, but I think that's sort of the ethos that the nursery have. I feel like it's our extended family. Heidi, who owns the nursery, I just think that she's incredibly generous and that's how she runs her business, and I feel like they're part of our extended family. And the same with the next school that he'll go to with Day. It's our local school. There is probably 3 or 4 on our doorstep. And I chose that one for Day. I thought that would be the best school for him. And I'm really happy with what I've seen with him. So I would want Bertie to go there as well. Yeah. So there is no massive hoops that I needed to jump through to get this for Bertie. The only obstacle was Bertie needs one-to-one care. And originally, when the nursery applied for the funding for that, because I get this for free, I mean, this is what we get here. I get this for free. He gets 15 hours, and originally he was awarded 7.5 hours funding, which was clearly not enough. He needs somebody with him all the time, and they appealed that, and he was given the 15 hours. And really, really noticed the difference in his development when he was able to have somebody with him all the time. But without that, he tended to drift. Like, he would happily play by himself, but that wasn't what the activity was at that given time in the nursery. The activity would be more of a group activity, and he would just lose interest or not understand what was required of him. And with the 15 hours one-to-one care now, so he has the one-to-one the whole time that he's there, his ability to participate, to concentrate for longer, be engaged longer, has just really, really increased. I really noticed that at home as well with him in his development. So I've had it really, really easy. I don't know whether other people in the UK, their experience is like mine, but yeah, no big hoops to jump through. I feel very lucky.
I think that's the thing is that, over here, it's the laws. We have a right to an education, an equal education, and then the supports to access that education. And, a lot of times what happens to parents is they're told, no need to educate your child. They're not going to learn the same way. And all of these things are told that cause us to not address the fact that there are places in the school, and the job of the school is to support that child to access the curriculum. What are those supports? What can they look like?
Can you imagine saying that to a typically developing child that's saying, well, your child is not going to be an A student. They're going to be an average C student. So they're just not going to learn the same. There's just no point in educating them. I mean, I think when you flip it around for things like that, people would be really horrified.
Oh, yeah.
But it just seems like more acceptable that you can say that about a kid with a disability.
I think where we saw it was in the pandemic, because when the pandemic hit, every parent was in the same boat, but they were in the boat that we had been in for years. And when I saw the way the parents of neurotypical children reacted to not having the supports to access the curriculum, and I saw how outraged they were and the fuss, and they were yelling at teachers and the principal, but the district responded.
Yeah.
That was the path that we had been on the entire time. How is he supposed to access this homework if he doesn't know how to do it? And hearing how irate these other parents got really validated my point of view. Like, it really made me, people have made me think that it's inappropriate or wrong.
Yeah, you have no right. You're getting a little bit, so you just shut up now and go back over there.
Yeah. Be happy.
Yeah. Be grateful.
That actually, one time I had someone leave a note and say, you should be thankful that your teacher left this for you. And I was like,
can I legally punch you in the throat now?
Well, Laura, you had mentioned, basically what the law is in the States, that the US and UK have similar laws that, hey, your school needs to educate every child in its area. And one little blip that can come from federally funded things is that the money goes to the school, and then the school decides how to distribute that money in the United States. And I think more where you were coming from, Melissa, is that you were like, well, let's apply, or just say this is what we need, and then you're maybe talking more straight to the government, to the UK itself, and you're almost on the same side as the school. Like, you're both approaching it from that, instead of I'm now going to the school saying, hey, some of this money you've been given, can you pay for this? And sometimes certain schools, so you get something a little different from everywhere you go. Some schools will be reluctant to do things, and some...
Yeah.
There will be a day when a school or a district or a lot of schools get caught for embezzlement, because that's exactly what they're doing by taking funds to support and educate children with disabilities. They're taking the funds and they're not using them to support and educate children with disabilities. And it is only a matter of time where a parent or a lawyer with a lot of time on their hand approaches it, because we've been in many IEPs and our lawyer will say, you realize this is embezzlement. You're taking the money and you're not
distributing it out.
But also, I don't know how it works there, but in IEP here, it'll say, okay, 30 minutes, 5 times a week of resource support, 20 minutes, 2 times a week of occupational therapy. So it's written down. They get the money for that. Liam, in fact, had years. 1 year, they were in a deficit of in excess of 3,000 hours of non-implemented service.
Remember, it was a couple weeks where we're like, oh, he's not doing rec therapy right now? That person quit, and we're trying to find someone else.
But they're still getting the money for it.
Yeah,
they're getting the money for it.
Yeah.
I asked the resource teacher, because they were trying to pull him off curriculum in first grade after he had been held back because they had been found guilty of discrimination. So the next year I said, can you tell me how you implement the math? Tell me what supports you use so I could do it at home. And he was like, I don't know. I don't do it. His assistant does, which is against the law. So it's only a matter of time, I think, here to not open that can of worms, that someone finally has to pay the price for just behavior that is wrong and illegal. It's all illegal the way that.
What we found is that, hey, the law can be there, but now we're struggling to have that law implemented.
Yeah, because it needs to be monitored, and they just don't have the people there to monitor. And I see, because I have Facebook groups, right, with other parents, and so I do see some horror stories where their child has missed out. So it definitely happens where they've really had to fight for funding. That's thankfully not something that we have experienced. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But I'm always grateful to these parents that have tread that path before us, because they tend to have the solution as well of how to get around it. So I always find that my parent support groups are so valuable for things like that. Yeah, because but hopefully that just won't be our experience. There is just above me here. There is a special school for children with disability. So people who could walk there. It's right right on our doorstep. So we've got choice of there's 2 local high schools and this school that's for when Bertie is 11 to see what's going to be best for him. So we'll see. I mean, just things can change, can't they, between now and when he's 11? So much can change in society. So I feel like I'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Yeah, but it's always good to know what the pitfalls could be and to be vigilant for them.
And you're right. You don't know what will happen. For instance, when we were at this other school, we didn't know what was around the corner. We were fearing middle school, and then this beautiful school, the Citizens of the World that he goes to. I mean, it had been around. We wish we would have put him there during elementary school.
I would have liked to have Sophia there.
It's to have Sophia there because to hear the children who graduate there, because it is inclusive, completely 100% on all levels, inclusivity. And just to hear the children that graduate like elementary school or, just to speak what they talk about, it's just so inspiring. And to see Liam, even after being in this inappropriate environment for so long, just how when he was put into the right environment, the inclusive environment where people do want to educate him, just how he flourished. It's been amazing. He has friends. He had a birthday party.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It really is.
You said about the birthday party. So, like, Bertie's, as you know, he's an ambassador for Wouldn't Change a Thing. We love them so much. So grateful for Wouldn't Change a Thing. And I know one of the mums had posted, this was some time ago, about how excited her son with Down syndrome had got about being invited to one of the birthday parties, and that didn't happen. And I was like, really? Like, are we still there? Are we still there? The kids with Down syndrome don't get invited to things, and that was really, really upsetting. And now I think, I just think, look, where Bertie's at now and where he will be at Old Hill, I think that will definitely be what they will promote. I think Bertie's will be first on the list to be invited to these things, because they do things like they do after school clubs, after school discos, and Bertie will participate in those things. And I think it's only a short leap then, isn't it, to having a birthday party and having him there. So I think like the school is set up for that type of inclusivity. And also Matthew, Bertie's one-to-one, I think he's set such a high standard now of the care that Bertie can have, that I'll spot if he's getting less than that, and I'm not going to accept anything less than what Matthew can give him, because we've really noticed how much Bertie's come on at home having that type of care, just with the amount of signs now that Bertie's got. He's probably got well over 100 signs now. I mean, he completely communicates with his hands, and that is down to Matthew being repetitive with him. So there's a standard now that I just know I'm not going to accept anything less than that.
Well, speaking of Wouldn't Change a Thing, and to forget about the fact that Bertie and your experience with Bertie was broadcast throughout the UK, like very early, can you touch upon how being so entrenched in the Down syndrome community and support system has guided you?
I think our lives would be a lot more challenging without that type of support. I think it's the same as being a recovering addict. To find that sort of unity and connection, I mix with other recovering addicts. I think that relatability is just really, really important. And I get that, with our community here. We've also got our local Ups and Downs support group, which has been really instrumental because it's local. We Wouldn't Change a Thing is online. They're all over the country, around the world. So getting together, I think we've got together with them maybe twice since Bertie's been born, whereas our local Down syndrome group is great. we all got together at Easter, and they do discos and stuff. And I think it's just really, really important to be able to be with people who really, really understand what you go through. I don't think a non-addict can understand what it's like to get clean and stay clean. Like, we can all empathize, but to truly, truly relate and know, I think that's just so important to be with, kind of like-minded people. And it's the information that's been such a big thing, that information highway, what we should be receiving, how to get it, the standard that we should have. I'm not going to get that anywhere else. I think the government tries its best to inform you of everything, but I could only expect my health visitor and my midwives they're not going to know to the depth of what another parent will know. So that's been the biggest thing, I would say, just that sort of information gathering and support. Yeah, and great fun. I mean, it's a great community to be a part of, isn't it? I find that people are very, in the circles that I mix, people are a lot more open-minded, a lot more compassionate, and a lot more caring. So that can only be a good thing for the boys. And I also, I think maybe we're surrounded in a bit of a bubble, because we are surrounded with either recovering addicts. I know people who are not in those circles would think that was quite strange for me to say, that how blessed I feel that we're surrounded by, like, my friends are all recovering addicts, but that's my truth. And families who have got a member with Down syndrome, we're in this bubble where people are kind, thoughtful, loving, and aware of what they can say can really hurt. They're not judgmental. This really, really beautiful setting. And then I just recently sort of went on TikTok, and I put in Down syndrome because I'd like to follow some positive accounts, and so the first thing that popped up was just like really, really horrible, just like really, really horrible. And I just haven't, I thought, like, I was just shocked, because that's not part of our world. And I just thought, oh, man, maybe I've been a bit naive of how accepted Bertie is, because there are still some really cruel people out there, and so yeah, I'm quite happy to keep sticking in in these circles, because I just don't see that cruelty. My boys aren't subjected to any cruelty whatsoever. Everything is inclusive and love and care. Even, like, we were just really lucky to go on holiday in February as a family, and Bertie just took over the place. I mean, he came, he saw, he conquered, he was just loved by everybody, just being himself. He didn't particularly do anything. He was just himself. And so I can totally believe, like, the whole world is like that. But this on TikTok showed me, the whole world isn't like that. And that makes me feel really, those are the only moments when I feel really scared, like really, really scared.
Well, I'm one for bubbles.
Yeah.
We've had a bubble since Sophia was born, our family, and that bubble emanates love and acceptance of everyone. I don't think everybody in the world has evolved to that, and their pain or whatever causes them to only feel validation by hurting another person. And they're the ones who are naive to think that they have any kind of power or that they're any better than anyone else. I believe in the evolution of humanity. I believe that people grow. And like I said, this is the beginning. It's only been a few years where we're starting to have more positive voices out there that are changing the narrative, that, because for the most part, especially when you're talking about kids whose expressive language has a delay sometimes, that really don't have a voice. Right. And sometimes people can think that if they talk louder and send their message, that they're going to change the reality. But it's only time. I hate that there's bad people in the world. I hate that there's cruelty in the world. It's the same fear I have raising my daughter is I have to have those conversations of, you know what, especially in high school, I'm like, be a good person, be kind, try to find something good about whoever is bothering you. Try to see that they're a human. It doesn't mean that they have to come into your circle, but just, you're not going to change anything by being annoyed and hating this person that's so full of hurt, because that's where it comes from.
Yeah, hurt people.
It can be scary. It's why when, Liam says he wants to have a party and invite his friends, I check with the teacher and go, tell me the truth. Are these real friends? Or, because I know that can exist. And I am hopeful for that change. I wanted to ask you because it's a part of who you are, your 12-step journey. And this is something that occurred to me. And if you're okay talking about it, what occurred to me is, when Stephen and I were going through that fight that was it was just exhausting and physically draining. And so, like you were saying, you look on the message boards and parents are still fighting it. And you think, gosh, I was in there, I was fighting, I was filing, reports, I was making complaints, I was hiring lawyers. And then you see these people who are still having these like horrible experiences. When we were able to step out of it and change schools, it wasn't until then that we saw the physical and emotional toll it had taken on us. And the one thing that I immediately acknowledged was we would leave an IEP and say, I need to have a drink. And at the end of the school experience, when Liam was being denied his civil right to an education blatantly and very it's just what you got to deal with. You couldn't do that nowadays to very many. I can't think you could do it to any group without it being on the news, but they were doing it. They were denying a civil right, and they didn't care. They did it in a matter that's just what we're going to do, which is it puts you in this place of helplessness and
Powerlessness.
How can you do something that is so wrong? It's wrong. It's not even wrong. It's unlawful, and you don't care, and you get away with it. And we're not the only ones. And we would go and have drinks, and that was just what we did. And what happened was when we stepped out of that experience where we were no longer, because then you have to participate in life, you have to participate in the school, you have to show up with a nice face on, you have to, for some reason, I don't think you have to.
No, you've got to carry on. You have to carry on.
I mean, you have to carry on, but I don't know. Like, I'm challenged right now to say, why don't we turn the tables over? Why don't we go into the school and people go, hey, how are you? At the PTA meetings go, I'm a little mad because my child's not receiving his civil right to an education. And I get that you're worried about the carnival, but I'm worried about the fact that my child isn't receiving speech, so he can't go up to the booth to ask for his tickets for the carnival. Like, I don't know, because people get mad at you when you do that. They get really mad at you when you offer up a plate of reality. But what I acknowledged was, Stephen and I have not had a glass of wine, and not because we didn't even, it wasn't like we are not doing that now that we're done. Like, all of a sudden,
you didn't need to.
We didn't need to. And if I want to be perfectly honest, we were self-medicating.
Yeah.
Because we had to make that shift to existing when these terrible things were being done and said about our child, and this horrific fight we were having to participate in. And I wanted to talk to you about that because I feel like there's something about the fact that you don't self-medicate and you're present every day in this journey. And that beautiful light that I see that comes from you, that attitude and clarity. And I don't know what this part of the conversation is about, but I wanted to talk to you about it because maybe part of our community has to find other ways to deal with this stress that's put upon them. And if you're open to talking a little bit about.
I haven't. I'm 15 years clean, sober now. So yeah, self-medicating and having a drink to de-stress, unwind is not a go-to tool that I can use anymore. I'd end up nicking your TV if I did. So, I mean, there are other ways that I can distract myself. TV, that can be food, can be a distraction. But because I have that disease of addiction, I have the tendency that I can't, if I use that as my go-to self-soothe tool, I'll take it to the nth degree and it will become an issue. So I tend to use my tools for dealing with the anxiety, because let's just say the anxiety about being a parent, right? My biggest thing that I use for self-care is my friends in recovery. Like, I go to meetings, part of a 12-step fellowship. I go to meetings and where I talk about, if I want to share, then I get the opportunity to speak about what's going on for me and nobody can interrupt me. That's really powerful, to just be given that space to just talk, because I find that a lot of the times I don't really know how I am until I start talking. And I have a sponsor who's, a mentor, and I check in with her every single Monday. And it might not necessarily be on the phone. She lives in Wales, so she's not on my doorstep, but I send her a voice note. And every Monday, it's in my diary to give her a message, and I tell her how I am and what's going on. And then I have a WhatsApp group, maybe like 50 of us, all females on the group. We're all in recovery, and that is my one of my go-tos of talking about how I feel, what's going on, if I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling scared, and if I'm wanting to binge overeat to self-soothe with food, then I know that I need to be doing something different. And I also, when the boys are not at school, big part of my self-care routine is to exercise. It's very difficult to go to the gym when the boys are on holiday. So yeah, that's just like eating as healthy as I can and exercise. Some of the big things that I can do to manage the stress of being a parent and being a parent to somebody like Bertie. But what has really developed over the years is my closeness. And Richard, Bertie's dad, we've always been great friends, and we've just really, really built on that. So what I experienced with Bertie, he's experiencing it as well. So we really lean on each other. And he's always been a really, really good friend, and we've always been able to talk. I mean, now we're actually we're in a relationship now, so that's really, really nice for the boys, and that's all going really well. So he's the person that experiences pretty much what I experienced with Bertie. And so yeah, we talk about that, and I find that that's really works for me a lot. Talking, it's just like talking about how I feel, and having like the right people around me that don't minimize what I'm going through, because it can be quite minimizing when, like, Bertie's big thing that he's quite destructive at the moment. Like, if you met him face to face, within a few minutes, the first thing you would notice is how happy he is, how funny he is, how charismatic he is and loving he is. The next thing would be, gosh, isn't he hyperactive? And he's quite destructive. He throws everything all the time, and it's sometimes they're missiles that we have to dodge like this, and I think it's a phase, but it's been going on for a very long time now, and I think it's here for another few years. But I don't see him being 15 and lobbing things at us. But it really can get me down. It can really, really get me down. And so I can say to friends, Bertie's just throwing everything. He's throwing everything. What doesn't help is when somebody says to me, oh yeah, all children throw things. because that's like quite minimizing what I'm going through. But I know what they're doing is they just want to normalize it for me. They want to relate. They want to say, I understand what you're going through. But at that moment, what I really need is, yeah, I can see why that would drive you insane. Or like, how do you cope with that, Mel? Or let me just give you a big hug, you know. So I have friends who are really talented at normalizing stuff for me, but not minimizing it. And it's really hard to quantify doing that. It's all about empathy, isn't it? You know, I mean, like they just show me lots of empathy without brushing off my experience. And so that's what I'm really lucky at. I'm surrounded by a lot of people who are really, really talented at doing that. And that's how I manage my challenges with Bertie.
I feel like that ability that you just spoke of, and I hope that I always allow you to finish and I don't minimize anything that you say. Sometimes I tend to be the person who wants people to feel better. What I hear though is just being able to express and talk about what your journey is. And I think really that was what was missing from Stephen and I's experience of elementary school. I mean, we did have a small group, and one good friend in particular that I could talk to. I feel like we were always trying to make each other strong because we were in the same boat. Do you know what I mean? Like putting lipstick on a pig, like making the situation bearable, do you know? And that inability to have a voice, to not only have our child's voice be attempted to be silenced, but then as parents to have our voice consistently silenced by the institution. I don't know if we ever had a place to just talk about how like dehumanizing it was to us as parents, like literally taking our power from us. The one thing as parents that we want to do is protect and support our child. And all of a sudden there's this entity that's saying, it's just not going to happen. And the fact that you know that that entity is standing in the wrong and that you're in the right by law. And it really took a toll on us. And we were not able to, or we didn't think, because actually when we did at the very end start to speak up in meetings, people did not want to hear it. But that isn't the reason to not tell your story. And it was that once we changed schools, and we didn't go in going, okay, it's behind us. We went in with some issues. Like we went in with some huge trust issues that now we can talk to our team and acknowledge and laugh about. Like, thank you. You were supportive. You let us be there, because the ebb and flow of the experience that once we stepped out, it was still crashing on us.
You've been traumatized, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're traumatized.
Absolutely.
You don't shake that stuff off overnight. It's impossible to.
I want parents to hear that. Like, I can't see you right now because you're just hearing our voice, but to be seen and acknowledge the fact that this fight, it's not about our child and it's not about the chromosome. It's not about their ability or who they'll become. The fight for an education or equality in the world, it's traumatizing. And the strength that we must muster, and then the guilt that we feel if we don't have the strength.
And the two of us can support each other as much as we can, but then we're both going through the same thing. You know?
I think it got so hard that we'd be like little teapots, and it would just be like, "Pooh, I have to say this," and then the other one would minimize it just so they could exist in it. I mean, I just remember the amount of letters I had to write daily. Do you know how much time? And I get anxiety about wasting time, and how much time and my life was spent on it, and then to have nothing change, right? Nothing except us. We changed, and then we changed schools. And that felt like a failure. We felt like failures.
When we left the school?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Like, because we had this idea that we were going to change the school. Liam was going to go on that stage at graduation, and everybody's going to be like, wow, yeah, this is, and we left, and it's, hasn't changed.
The school is still the same. And I'm really glad that you've changed your perspective of what winning is, because you've definitely won, haven't you? You've definitely won, because your child is flourishing and he's happy.
No, you're absolutely, it was us changing our perspective, because I just spoke to a parent who's at that school on Friday. And it was the same story. And I could hear the pain in her voice, and it made me so sad because, and the words that she was using and the struggle she was going through, and everything was still in full tilt bozo. They were still doing their damage or trying to.
I think there's nothing worse as a parent as feeling powerless over protecting your child. And that's what they did to you. They made you feel powerless, like you didn't have the ability to be able to protect him and to shape his future. And that's just an awful thing for a parent, to have to feel like you can't keep your child safe. And so that what they did to you is going to stick to you. It will take a while to get over that.
Yeah, you're right. And I think about the other parents out there, and I think about us when we were going through it. Obviously, this is if we knew then. I wanted to hear, because you're present in any of the challenges, and what I heard was, if I would have had that voice wherever, just had that freedom to actually speak about what I was going through, because even here, I want to encourage and inspire, and I don't ever mean to minimize anyone's struggle, but being on the other side of it, or once we go through it, and we have a lawyer at our IEP, I want to share with you the tools to hopefully minimize the struggle. Do you know what I mean? Like, instead of sitting there and crying in front of these people who really don't care, lay down the law of, this is the law, these are the words to say, and this is your job. Your job is to educate my child, and your job is to prove that my child doesn't deserve an education. Your job, if you can't educate my child, is to then find somebody who will. That's not my job. And that's what I want parents to know, because I feel like the blood, sweat, and tears we gave, from the time Liam was 3, if I could lift that from one person. And what I got from you is that we still do need to see it, and we still have a voice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a really big part of healing is for people to see and acknowledge our struggle and our pain, and then I can feel validated by that. I think that's like really, really, really powerful. After Bertie's surgery, his heart surgery, I had some therapy after that, and that was one of the biggest things. The biggest healing that I got from that experience was she just really saw my struggle, and she validated me. She helped me to really see like how strong I'd been and how capable I'd been. And I just needed an outside person to help me see that, and she's trained to do that. But to be able to see and have this, like what you guys went through, there's a huge part of me going, oh, man, I hope I never have to go through that. But I would hope that your healing, that through your pain and through your suffering, you are helping me should I have that hurdle, because you've done the footwork and you're giving me the tools that I can maybe miss a lot of those stages. I don't need to go through those stages, because you're making your pain and your suffering work for other people. And I really hope that you guys can feel some healing in that, of what you're giving to the rest of us, because it's really important what you're giving to the rest of us. But it doesn't mean that that pain that you've gone through, how you've just been like discarded and made to feel worthless, it's not going to go overnight. But through your pain and your suffering, you are helping the rest of us that are not yet there yet.
I love you.
I have to tell you too, when you mentioned Richard, I know it's Facebook, and we always see photos of everyone that is like, these are the best photos you're possibly going to take and happiest moments. But to see the 4 of you together, it really is a beautiful, beautiful thing, because when we first met you, Richard, I don't believe, was as involved as he is now. And yeah, what a great journey you've had. And even the last time we talked to you, Richard and you were basically more just, really close friends, staying very close friends. And Richard's very involved with the boys. But I really got a smile on my face when you said that you guys are together. And I see your photos of you guys together. It's great.
For me, it's still getting my head round it. I've just been so used to calling him like Bertie's dad. Mm-hmm. He's Richard, Bertie's dad, to now calling him, I don't know what, boyfriend, partner. I just find that still It just makes me laugh.
But you've been partners the whole way. You've been together,
Yeah. Richard first met Bertie when he was 10 weeks old. And so he'd missed he'd missed my pregnancy, pretty much. And he'd missed those weeks when Bertie was in NICU, which was really, really intense. But when he met Bertie when he was 10 and a half, 11 weeks old, Bertie was then coming up to his heart surgery. And from that point, Richard really hasn't been separated from him. We've had distance of Richard living near London and travelling up weekends to be with us all. And then I think he just sort of realised at the beginning of the year, end of last year, that he wanted more. So I said, all right, we'll give that a go. And I think we probably would have always have headed in that direction, because I do think we've got a very deep love for each other. I know we do, and I just, for two people to get on that well, it kind of makes sense, right? And he's very good looking.
Yeah, he's handsome.
He's like really hot.
And how's your mum?
Oh, she's great. My mum is amazing. She's really really amazing. We took her on holiday with us, and we just waited on her hand and foot, and it was great. Yeah, she's 85, she's so sprightly, but my mum is such a huge part of our lives, of my life and the boys' life. She's just amazing. She's amazing. I'm very, 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 very close to my mum. Yeah.
Well, I'm always so happy. I don't want to wait a year to talk to you again. And first, I want to say I see you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you. And I appreciate you telling your story and sharing your story. I feel so honored to be able to witness it. And I thank you for that, because I do think it changes the narrative. Right at the foundation, you're changing the narrative, and you are moving forward and making that change for the people who come behind as well.
Thank you. And you guys, what you guys are doing for our community is like unparalleled. You work really, really hard at this, and we notice it, and thank you. And there'll be things that I will be able to thank you for specifically in the future, should I come across them, because you guys will have done that already for us. So what you do is really, really amazing, really powerful. And so thank you from, well, when Bertie can talk, because he will eventually, I'll get him to say it himself.
Or he can sign it. Tell him I said, you're welcome. I look forward to just watching and being a part of your story as it unfolds. And I just have so much hope, and I love watching Bertie's story, because I do believe that his is the story of change and possibility, when all those other misperceptions and misconceptions and archaic thinking are no longer present. That's the possibility. And it's the possibility for every life. For some reason, this is put on this community, but it is the possibility. And just having that knowledge, like any human, given the supports and the love that they need, have a life full of potential. And we don't have to guess what that potential is. We can just watch it unfold.
Yeah, and Bertie's the future, and it's a beautiful future.
It's so amazing. I love it.
He definitely is. There is something very special and unique about him, the lives that he touches, even people that he's never met, just people on social media. He's already, just 3.5, is already doing great things for the human race.
Please follow us on Twitter at If We Knew Then Pod, and you can drop us a line on our Facebook page at If We Knew Then Pod, or visit our website, ifweknewthen.com, to send us an email with questions and comments. And you can join our mailing list there and get alerts of future podcast episodes. All these links will be added to this episode's show notes. Thank you again, and we look forward to you joining us on the next episode of If We Knew Then.
Decide what he